Hey nerds, coming up this week, we talk about two dogs, capitalist monkeys, and a crystal skull. Okay, the crystal skull is probably a giveaway. We are going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. A rewatch for both of us and a review for you. Stay tuned for that and more right after this. I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The
Irreverent
Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Nerds.
Are we recording?
Yes, we are recording.
Nerds! Hi!
Hey, so we are here sort of back where it all began. We're not on my deck, but we are sitting just outside my apartment, which is sort of a townhome almost. It's like a one-story building, and we've got a porch in the front, which is where Will and I are now. We've also got a deck on the side, and that deck is where he and I first recorded together many moons ago. And back at that point, it still worked pretty well, actually. If you go back and listen to the audio quality for that, it's surprisingly good for the mics I had. I spent $15 on these two little what do you call them, lapel mics, like analog lapel mics, and they had a splitter so you could plug them both into the same headphone jack, and so you would get two people could talk and it would go through the same track. So it's not stereo necessarily, but now we've got this is not top of the line, but we got some pretty decent stuff here. We got our Audio-Technica microphones. I finally found the other one. It was at the bottom of my closet. It had fallen down. So I found the other one, and we have a PreSonus Audio Box i2, which is designed to work with iPad, which is what we're recording on right now.
Nice.
And so we got the nice thing about the Audio-Technica microphones, and we're just nerding out. This is the Irreverent Nerds after all, or I'm just nerding out, is that they have XLR connections as well as USB connections, which is something that most, if not all, of the Blue Yetis do not have. Although I did see a Blue Yeti at McKay's that had a MIDI output, which I'd never seen before. I was like, oh, if I needed a microphone right now, that would be pretty cool, because it had both USB and MIDI. And something I had noticed with the Blue Yeti is that the micro USB plug-in eventually gets loose, and you can have some problems with it. So having the MIDI connector in addition to that is nice. But I think these Audio-Technica mics are a better option just because they have the XLR and the USB, as well as a microphone output through the mic itself. But now we have an audio interface and software that goes along with it, so we're fancy now. By the way, Will is
Fancy.
here. It's not just me.
Yeah, I regret, while waiting for Richard to set up, I fell asleep, and I'm tired now, so I regret that.
All right, get up and do 20 jumping jacks right now. He's doing sitting up crunches right now, guys. So it looks a little awkward.
It does look cool.
But
It feels awkward.
But is it effective?
No.
So, but yeah, we're sitting out here. We're surrounded by 4 tiki torches because it's right at the edge of summer, beginning of fall, and those suckers are still out. And I really don't like mosquitoes. Do you like mosquitoes? I don't like mosquitoes.
Love them. They're great. They're great for making dinosaurs.
Oh yeah,
No.
that's right.
No, I don't like mosquitoes. They're the birds of the south.
Although interestingly, from what I've heard, the male mosquitoes help to pollinate flowers.
Huh.
Why the female mosquitoes don't also do this, I don't know. They, for some reason, want to suck blood. Why is that, female
Women, right?
mosquitoes? Why? I know they're feed their young with it and stuff, It's just really annoying. It's why can't you suck my blood without making me itch for 3 days straight? Why can't you?
Are you allergic?
No, but I mean, and I have a lot of body hair, so I don't give a bit as often as some people. But, it still, it gives you the lump and it itches for, 2 or 3 days, right?
So that's why Bigfoot's covered.
Well, that would help. Yeah. Although animals with hair still seem to get flies all over. Although they seem to, I saw with horses and cattle.
Yeah.
It's all around their eyes, which that's got to be really annoying. It's like, and they're just standing there all day, like grazing, and like so they're just trying to flick it off with their ears. And they don't have hands where they can just, I mean, I guess they could try doing that with their paws, not the right hoof. I don't know. Wouldn't be very effective though. If they were, I wonder if horses have figured out, like, one horse could stand in front of the other horse and he could use his tail to flick the flies off the other horse's face, and they could just have this Congo lion going around the paddock or the pasture where they're at, and obviously the guy in the very front, who's probably the leader of the pack, he has to put up with the flies, but then they would rotate, right? So he'd get in the back and he'd get someone to flick his flies off, and
maybe not.
I don't know where
this
is where is this going, Will?
They could do an infinite circle.
Infinite circle, like the infinity.
Infinity
I guess
horses.
if you, duh, that would work. Be in a circle. You'd have to have enough horses to make it, but yeah, you can make a circle. Yeah, I guess even just 3 horses, maybe.
Triangle.
Definitely a circle though. Circle would work. That's very true. Yeah. Isn't it interesting that, like, geometric shapes, like circles or swirls or
Squirrels.
even triangles, like, just pop up naturally, and then us with all of our knowledge and expertise in architecture, we're in a lot of ways we're just imitating what's around us, right? Like,
Yeah.
and we're very skilled at doing that, obviously, and we make new things out of it. Like this apartment building or this car sitting next. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I know.
right?
I see all sorts of minivans in nature.
So creeping closer to our topic for today, what if 5,000 years ago interdimensional beings arrived on Earth and taught us how to do some of this shit?
And created cars with eyeballs
Flying
that
cars.
talk and star in Disney films? No, wrong topic.
What if that's how the agricultural revolution started? That they came and taught us how to do it. Yeah. This is what the film we're going to talk about today. Yes, nerds. We're discussing Indiana Jones
In the
And-
kingdom.
The Kingdom. The Kingdom of the Crystal
Skull. I was trying to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Why
So,
did we
yeah.
choose this topic?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, it was my turn to choose the topic, and I wanted to watch Dial of Destiny, but it's not on Disney Plus, so we settled for this. And I've got to admit, I've only seen this movie once before now.
Oh, just in the theater?
It may have been the theater. It may have been home video.
Did you and I go see it together?
Did we?
I don't know. It would have been, 2008? I think I went to see it with somebody. Maybe it was just my sister, though.
I saw it with...
I saw it in theater.
I did see it with somebody, and I didn't like it, so I wanted to hate watch it, but I have to admit something. My second time watching it, I didn't hate it.
Ah, okay.
Did not.
Okay.
It was good.
Cool.
I mean, the Gophers were still ridiculous. There were some ridiculous parts, but it was better.
So what's more ridiculous, though? The gophers in this movie, or those little, I don't even know what you call them, those little chicken bird things in The Last Jedi? We're jumping universes here over to Star Wars for a minute, but still with it connected. George Lucas is the connection.
Ha ha ha.
Loosely. But, those little chicken birds that Chewbacca's eating one of them, and then the other ones show up, and they're like, "You're eating my father!" And then he can't eat it anymore, and they become his pets. Is that what they're called? Porgs?
Yeah, porgs.
So, what's more annoying, the porgs or the prairie dogs?
I like porgs.
They are kind of
They're
cute.
fun.
Yeah, and they fly inexplicably.
Marketable.
They're like, I guess they're smaller than penguins, so that's how they're able to fly somehow.
Well, I'm just joking. The gophers the prairie dogs aren't really a big issue. What's really ridiculous is still let me turn to my notes right quick.
Yeah. We're just
So-
jumping right in, by the way, so
So I think this
if you haven't
movie
seen
starts
this
out
yet,
strong.
spoiler warnings. Anyway, continue, sir.
I think the movie starts out strong. There was a lot of things I missed in my first watching that I got for this watching. What's ridiculous is still that nuke bomb fridge scene.
Yeah.
Because even if he survived, it would have broke all his bones.
Oh yeah, yeah. The dude would have been. Yeah, he would have had some broken bones at least, but somehow he gets out unscathed, and is just. I mean, he does have to get a scrub down to get rid of the radiation, a little bit of radiation exposure he got, but beyond that, like the worst of the experience is probably the uncertainty of whether he was going to die. Obviously, that's pretty scary. And then they try to scrub his junk.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, which, I mean, you got to scrub everything, so, yeah, sorry, Andy.
Yeah. So, does scrubbing someone with a broom actually get rid of radiation?
I have no idea, but that may have been I don't know if that was the process at the time. Like, now it's probably, like, super powerful, like, showers, like, I don't know. I don't even know what the process would be now, but I would imagine cleansing of some type is involved, I would think.
Yeah.
Like, the guys doing it were all in, like, the radiation suits and stuff, like So yeah, and they had, like, Geiger counters out and whatnot. But, anyway, your notes, sir.
I had no idea the first time watching this film. I must have missed it, that Indiana Jones was involved with the crash and autopsy of the 1947 Roswell, New Mexico alien.
Yeah, I liked that connection, actually. I mean, I like most things alien related, except for, I mean, there's some things that are just genuinely dumb, but in general, I like sci-fi that deals with the possibility of aliens, like X-Files, existing within our time period or recent history. That kind of stuff's interesting to me. So I like that connection. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I'm wondering, the aliens in this movie are highly magnetic, and I'm just wondering if that was made up for this film or if that is supposed to be some sort of documented factoid.
I have no idea.
Or
alien
theory.
As far as I know, we've never encountered interdimensional beings. At least not like the ones in this film. But then that's only as far as I know.
Right. Well, I'm not saying I believe in the 1947 UFO crash. I'm just...
Oh, yeah.
But I know that there are people who do believe that, so I'm just wondering if the magnetism has a place somewhere.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember, like... And I've watched or listened to some documentaries and some people that talk about this and take it more seriously. Like, I've heard interviews with people in the military who claim to have worked at Area 51 and claim to have seen remains. I've heard those kind of interviews. And then obviously I've watched fiction, which derives from some real life stuff, like X-Files. They derive from a lot of real stories in the sense of, like, real people have told these stories. And, the X-Files is adapting them dramatically. Now, whether those real people actually experienced what they thought they did is another question. But these are the stories that real people have shared, I guess. But yeah, as to the magnetism, I don't honestly know. It might have just been more of a gimmick in a sense to give atmosphere or to signal that something creepy was about to go on, along with the musical cues, obviously.
Right.
You get that. I don't know what instrument that was. Yeah. But yeah, you had some interesting. There were some musical notes in the film, I think, that evoked memories of Close Encounters of the Third Kind for me, which makes sense. Spielberg and Williams getting together on Aliens, Anyway.
So I really liked how there was a cameo of the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was neat.
They kind of snuck that in there.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't really sneak it in there. It was like right in your face, but like...
So, what did you think about the opening first 30 minutes or so of the film?
Yeah, I think I liked everything except him surviving the nuke. That was the dumb part. I was just like, really? But otherwise, I did really enjoy the opening, and I think the car chase or the car race, like the race, if memory serves me, evoked a connection to the Last Crusade. Because I think that's how the Last Crusade began, was with like people driving a hot rod through the desert, if memory serves me. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I
I
believe that's
thought
how
it
that
was
started.
on a train.
But I believe there was like a hot rod involved, though. I think like a. I haven't seen it in a while. But,
Yeah, I haven't either.
I think so, because I think Spielberg was like doing a callback, but it was different, obviously, because they were racing what they thought was the U.S. military,
Yeah.
and then of course we find out it's the Russians.
The Russians.
But no, I enjoyed it, and with it being 1957, it made sense that the villain of choice, switches to the Russians, who were kind of our unofficial enemy at the time. We were in a Cold War with them, kind of almost more of a competition in a sense. Although I've heard from people that were involved in all of that it came close a few times. Well, like the Cuban Missile Crisis, which I guess was just a few years after this
Right.
would have taken place. But yeah, but I like the switch to the Russians, but they are kind of just in some sense, the plug-in new baddie.
Yeah.
But I did feel like Kate Blanchett helps to lend some gravitas to that. How did you feel about? This is a more general question. How did you feel about her performance as the
I loved it.
Russian commander?
I think she did a really great job. I can't tell you whether or not the actors playing the parts of Russians was authentic or not, since I don't know a lot of Russian people. But
Neither do I.
I thought it was a great performance. I loved, like you said, I loved them switching out Germans for Russians.
Yeah, which again, being 20 years later, it wouldn't have made sense for them. I mean, you could find a way to get the Nazis in there. But yeah, it wouldn't necessarily have made as much sense to have the Nazis continue to be the big baddie, so to speak. Or at least the baddie that's around, that's working with maybe the big baddies. The villain of the show. But yeah, I liked her performance too. Like Kate Blanchett, one of the things she's known for, my experience with this aspect of her performance career starts with Lord of the Rings, and she does a really good job, like taking on accents, like mastering accents and languages, like she did, from what I understand, excelled with speaking Elvish, as did some of the other actors as well. But she's taken on those types of roles in other films as well, where she had to master a new accent, and even just her films where she plays an American, because she's actually Australian. So yeah, her commitment to that, I think, is I would say without rival, but she's one of the top actors in the business when it comes to mastering accents. Because some actors, even like the great Leonardo DiCaprio, now he did a really good job with Blood Diamond, where he did a South African accent, but I've seen him in one or two other films where it was a little spotty, but I don't think I've seen her slip up yet. But again, I'm also not Russian, so there may have been some things she missed. She could probably point them out to you too. She's like, there's where you missed that. Anyway, I'm rambling. But yes, I love Kate Blanchett. She's an amazing actress. And,
Was she the, I can't remember the name right now, but was she the female elf in Rivendell?
Yes, yeah, she was, well, not Rivendell. In Lothlorien, she was almost like a queen of Lothlorien.
Right. Well, that's who I'm thinking of.
Without being called a queen. Although she did refer to herself as that in one of the scenes where she talks to Frodo. But that wasn't necessarily her like official title, I don't think. But she is, in a sense, ruling over Lothlorien along with Celeborn. I think Lord Celeborn, who gets almost no screen time in that movie.
Right, I remember him though too.
Yeah, poor guy that plays him. Like he gets like maybe 2 lines. That's it. Except in the extended edition, he gets a little bit more. Anyway.
So, in my first watch, I didn't like that we were focusing on aliens, and that was only because I thought it was a jump from the previous topics. But in the second watch, I actually love it because it makes perfect sense to the time period and the lore of the time period.
Well, yeah, and you can tie it back to the theories, which are definitely out there, and the theories that aliens, that are leap and the technological leap that you see, at least in recorded human history, where we have the advent of agriculture and like the building of the pyramids and the ziggurats and just the advent of like more complex civilization, the theory that someone from outside of this planet helped us, that's definitely out there. So yeah, but from an archaeological and historical standpoint, it makes total sense that Indy would have been familiar with those stories, and that I think fit in really well with the archaeological themes
Right.
that go throughout all the movies. But yeah, I think Harold Oxley, I don't think he was in the first three films, was he? Do you recall?
Are we talking about the overweight character?
No, like Ox, like the one. He's the
Ox.
he's the professor.
I'm sorry,
like
you did say Oxley.
Harold Oxley. John Hurt plays him. I don't remember him being in the first three films, so I think he's like a new character created for this film.
He must be.
Seems like.
But I had the same question for you about the overweight character that seems to be
Mac.
Yeah, Mac. That seems to be have a lot of history with Indiana Jones, and I just really can't remember right now if he was even in the first three films.
Not that I recall, but again, having not rewatched them in a while, I don't know for sure. But if he was, it was not a major part.
Right.
'Cause I think I would have remembered it if it was a major part. Like even John Rhys Davies, who didn't have a huge role, he had probably his biggest role was in the first film. But you see him, it's like, oh yeah, it's John Rhys Davies. It's like he's always like Indy. But yeah, I don't recall Mac being in there, so I think it's more of he and Indy. I think it's more implied that he and Indy became friends in the interim period, the intervening 19, 20 years or so.
Apparently, Indy had fought in the war or something with him.
I think they were
between the films.
They were spies together, so like
Right.
they spied on the communists actually together. So they worked as spies for the U.S. government in there, which archaeology would have been a good cover for that type of stuff. So that made sense as well that they had done some of that work together. And obviously, Indy helps. It wasn't necessarily his intent for going on the journeys he goes on in the first three movies, but he ends up fighting against the Nazis quite a bit. Which I'm trying to remember if those take place actually. Sorry for the ambient noise here. We are outside.
The joys.
Yeah, city life, my friends.
City life.
City life. Do you remember if any of the first three films actually took place during or at least when I say during World War II, I guess I mean 1941 to 45, like after we entered the war. After his country would have entered the war. I'm trying to remember if it happened prior to. I can't recall off the top of my head right now.
I feel like it. I thought it so. I'm not sure though.
This would have been something good to have researched. But yeah, this isn't our job. So yeah, we try to fit in as much research as we can leading up. But yeah, we got a few other things going on in our lives.
Yes.
So
Lots of other things.
Sadly, you guys just get us having fun and shooting the breeze. Yeah. Anyway. So.
I mean, it would have been great if we had time. I almost suggested we do a review on Young Indiana Jones, but that's a TV series.
I thought about that. Because I guess it's on Disney Plus now, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I might have seen one episode of that, but probably not more than that.
I have definitely not watched all of it.
But yeah, we could have done maybe the first few.
I have no idea if it's considered canon or not.
That's a good question, man. It might be. That might even been something they referenced because he talks about fighting with Pancho Villa. Or no, getting abducted by Pancho Villa, I think. Fighting against Huerta something along those lines when he was Mutt's age, which Mutt's around, I don't know, 18, 19. I
Right.
think he's supposed to be somewhere in that range, 18 to 20.
I didn't think of that.
So maybe that took place during the series, and
Yeah.
could be something they were referencing. I wondered about that.
So, what did you think about Mutt Williams' character?
I think he was good. Like, I like Shia LaBeouf. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's a very naturally talented actor, and he's in a lot of the things he's in. He's fun. He's fun to watch, I think, and just something about him that's very relatable. I think both as a the characters he plays and just as a person. Like, he's made a lot of mistakes. He's messed up a lot, but he's kept going, and like he's kind of faced up to some of that, and moving on. Still making films. He's made a lot more independent movies of late than he has. He hasn't been involved in as many bigger budget films, which I'm
I've
like,
noticed.
props to you, man. You go where you have interest, and he can probably afford to do that at this stage. But I know back here, because he had been in Transformers, which is where, and Spielberg, I guess, really liked him back at this point, which is why Spielberg, I think he just straight up asked him if he would be in Indy. I don't even know if he screen test. Probably did some screen tests with Harrison, I would imagine, just to be sure if they had chemistry. But I thought that worked pretty well. I thought the interplay between Whoops. Pause.
Well, we're going to pause.
Nerds, we would love to find out who is on the other side of the microphone. There are multiple options by which you can connect with us. Our Instagram handle is @irreverent_nerds. We are on Facebook and YouTube as simply the Irreverent Nerds. Makes sense, right? And of course, we are on your podcast app. If you listen on Spotify, scroll down and you will see a question. What did you think of this episode? We welcome your feedback. We post episode-specific polls and questions from time to time on Spotify, so please feel free to jump in there and give us your 2 cents. All right, nerds, I've talked enough. Let's get back to this week's episode. All right, nerds. We're back. So in case you didn't hear what happened, one of the tiki torches fell over and caught some stuff on fire. Yeah, thankfully...
Pyro.
It was on the pavement, so not much happened. But yeah, that was interesting. Those are fun for the night. Not to say this isn't fun. Of course it's, But I don't remember where we left off.
We were talking about how much you love Shia
LaBeouf. Yeah, I like Shia. He makes some interesting choices. I even kind of liked him. Well, at least even in the Transformers movies, like there was elements of that I liked that was just kind of nerdy fun, I guess. And then he's matured as an actor over the years as well. But yeah, I thought he did a good job. He definitely portrays the pathos, like you see that in particular in his how upset he gets over Oxley as he sees evidence that it seems like Oxley's losing his mind. And someone that's meant a lot to him, kind of been a father figure to him. And
I have questions about that in case I missed something in the film.
Yeah, so what was your impression of that relationship?
Well, before we move on to that, I just want to say I'm not a Shia LaBeouf fan. However you pronounce that, but that's not his fault. LaBeouf.
Yeah.
LaBeouf.
I think it's LaBeouf. I'm pretty sure it's LaBeouf.
But that's not his fault. In my mind, he was just malaligned with the Transformers films. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't like this film originally. But since I'm over the whole Transformers Michael Bay thing, that was not held against him this time around. And I really enjoyed his character. I know why he's called Mutt Williams, but I still think that's a little too on the nose, personally.
Yeah. I mean, he does say that he chose it for himself. And I guess it was him I'm not super familiar with the greaser culture of the day, like where everybody was trying to dress like James Dean and had a motorcycle and all that. Like, I'm not. I haven't seen the movie Grease or Grease 2, so I'm only very loosely familiar with that that culture. So I don't know how common that was. Steven Spielberg, I think, would have. I don't know how old he would have been in that era. He would have lived through it, I think, but he might have. I don't know if he would have been old enough to be a greaser himself. I'm trying to think what year he would have been born. Yeah.
Well,
he might have. Yeah, he might have been right around Mutt's age at that point. So it might be something that was like a touch point for him, and maybe for George Lucas as well. I think George Lucas, he doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't deal with greasers, but I think it is a similar time period in his movie American Graffiti, which came out a few years before Star Wars hit. I think it was 1973 or something like that. So yeah, I don't know how. It definitely plays on some of the stereotypes from that, like the preppy college boys versus the school dropout greaser, getting in a fight.
Right.
I thought that was kind of funny though. I thought that was played for humor, and I thought that was.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was effective.
Yeah, I liked it.
And I like the give and take between him and like the growing respect that you see develop between them, but then obviously that shifts some when Indy finds out he's his son. Spoiler warning, by the way. Sorry if I surprised you, but again, you've had 15 years to see this, so it's your own fault. It's twice your fault because you're listening to this podcast right now. So anyway, yeah. So he's Indy's son, which Indy doesn't find out until more than halfway into the film.
And apparently Mutt doesn't find out until the same moment.
Yeah, he finds out right after Indy finds out.
Well, right after. You're right.
Yeah, like I think maybe the next scene or pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah, I think it was the next scene. Yeah. And the only reason his mom tells Indy, she says, is because she thought they were going to die. So she's like, Mutt's your son. Which if they had died, what would have been the point? But, it's like last minute confessional, I guess. It's like, speak all your truths.
So you do know why his name is Mutt Williams, though, right?
Well, the Williams, I do know, like, because they explain that she marries, like, Marion, like, after Indy very unceremoniously basically dumped and ghosted her, like, what'd she say, a month before they were going to get married? He just leaves, doesn't tell her why, doesn't explain it, doesn't have an argument about it. And he says that he didn't tell her because every time they talked, they had an argument, and they never had an argument that he won. So he didn't want to talk to her about it, and he was afraid that he was going to hurt her if they got married. So he was afraid it wouldn't work, so he ran away, not knowing, obviously, that she was pregnant. I'm not sure if she knew at that point. If she didn't, she found out soon after.
Right.
And then after, I think she said 3 months after Mutt was born, she started dating Colin Williams, whom apparently Indy had introduced to her at some point, which he gets angry about. He's like, I introduced you. She's like, well, I think you gave up your vote on who I marry after you walked out a month before we got married, before the wedding. It's like, touche.
And I have a question about her relationship with Oxley, because they get Harrison Ford's character Indiana and she get married at the end of the film. Mm-hmm. Spoiler. And Oxley is there clapping, all shaven and stuff now. And what, did they get a divorce at some point before this? Because I thought she married Oxley Williams.
No.
Okay, his name's not. So he's a different character. He's totally not different. Williams.
Totally. So you have Colin Williams.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if they ever say if they got divorced or if he died. I don't know that they say. I'm trying to remember because that conversation's sticking in my head pretty well, and I don't know that they say whether they got divorced or died. Because he was Mutt's stepfather. It may be that they got divorced.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, either he died or they got divorced, because then she was able to marry Indy.
Right.
So it's one of those two. But yeah, I don't know if the film tells you which, now that I think about it. It may have, and I just missed it. But yeah, Oxley was more of like, he was already a friend of Marion's and Indy's, and I guess maybe she lived near where he taught or something, but they had a friendship.
Yeah.
So he became more of just like a mentor, kind of father figure to Mutt. And he was angry that Indy had left. But he apparently thought that Mutt was also Colin's son. Like, he didn't realize that it was Indy's son, because he was surprised by that as well. So it wasn't... So that is interesting. So I guess he was more of just a family friend.
Right.
But was a very close family friend that hung around. And, but yeah, I never got any hint of him and Marion having anything romantic. And
Thanks for clearing that up. That was something I missed. But getting back to the name, the reason why Mutt Williams named himself Mutt as a nickname, I don't know why he in his mind did it, but I know why the screenwriters did it, because Indiana Jones's nickname, Indiana, he's named after the dog. The dog's name is Indiana. We find this out in The Last Crusade.
I forgot about that.
So, Mutt Williams' nickname is also after a dog, a mutt.
That's funny.
And at this point,
not a specific dog, but a type of dog, I guess.
Yeah. And at this point, I actually thought, in my rewatch, I thought, well, he knows that Indy is his father, and he's just not letting on. But apparently that's not true, because he doesn't find out until later in the film. So why he named himself Mutt, just out of coincidence, I don't know.
Well, it might have...
But the screenwriters know.
That's a good question, because he didn't know Colin was his stepfather. So yeah, maybe that was just more of like a little, like, hey, let's throw this in there. But yeah, they don't bother to explain it, and I don't think they need to necessarily. He's just like, it's like, yeah, I picked it for myself. You got a problem with it? You know, and it's like, I don't know that necessarily needs an explanation. But yeah, it could be some kind of, like, clever, you know, like trying to stick in a little reference there. Maybe they did it in part to make people wonder if he knew. But I don't know if anyone, maybe just hardcore indie fans, which you obviously picked up on that. I had forgotten even about him being named after the dog, but now that you mentioned that, I'm picturing a scene where he and his father talk about it, I think, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't he get mad about it too? He's like, you named me after the dog? Of course, that's not his name, though. Indiana. Was that his nickname?
No, that was just his nickname.
Because he's Henry. Henry's his first name. Henry Jones Jr.
So
Mutt's real name, we find out, is Henry.
The third.
Henry the Third.
So, in my notes, I'm jumping way ahead, but in the jungle, I found the Mutt Williams swinging on the vines, and then the monkey attack. I found that ridiculous.
Yeah, one of my mental notes was like, what I enjoyed about the film the first time around, I enjoyed the second. Well, I think I've seen it at least a couple times in between. So like, I enjoyed this time, you know, as well. And what I did not like about it the first time, I also did not like about it this time. And that is probably the worst scene.
Yeah.
It's just too stupid. It
is.
Because there are some ridiculous.
And how does he catch up with the speeding vehicles while swinging on vines?
They don't bother to try and explain the physics of that.
But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it was so blatantly, like the CGI in that whole scene. Granted, this is 15 years ago, but like, I think it would have worked better if they had stuck to more practical effects, like they did in the first three indie films, honestly, and done less CGI, and especially in big action scenes like that. Now, I know it's probably more expensive and certainly more dangerous, so maybe that's why they didn't, which is understandable. But the CGI was not good enough to make it seamless per se.
Yeah, I did notice it looked a little wonky.
You could tell it was CGI.
Yeah.
Like, obviously the vehicles they were in was not, but then you could tell a lot of the other stuff was CGI. I'm not saying that that's easy to do. I'm sure it's not. But they might have been better served to have stuck with practical effects in those scenes and not put in so much digital. But yeah, just that went a little too far. Like I know the action scenes in all the indie films have humor and they have some ridiculous moments, but that was just like, okay, this is too far, Spielberg. I'm sorry, this is just too dumb. It's just dumb. It's not funny. It's not. It's. I'm laughing at it, not with it. I guess it's like I'm not laughing at it because that's a good joke. I was like, no, this is just stupid. I'm laughing at how stupid it is. But yeah, so you felt similarly this time around as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think in my initial watch, I really thought the ants were stupid, but this time around, I was willing to accept it.
That made a little more sense.
Yeah.
Although, I meant to look this up before we started. I didn't get to it, but I wanted to look up and see if there are actually Peruvian ants that are that big. Because if there are, then I was like, oh, that's even scarier because they exist.
Well, there are African ants that can strip the flesh off of a live cow in so many seconds. So they might have based it off of that, but I don't know if there are any in Peru.
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. Of course, that's right. This was not Peru at this point. This was in the Amazon.
Or the Amazon, still South America.
Yeah. Which, it wouldn't surprise me if there were, like, why not? There's all kinds of crazy stuff in the Amazon. I mean, crazy in comparison to what we live around,
right.
I guess. Because, you got so much... Still, still, like, a lot of uncharted territory, I guess. Maybe not uncharted as much as, like...
Uninhabited?
Not uninhabited either, like...
Undomesticated.
Yeah, undomesticated, uncivilized, which I think is a good thing. Like leave the Amazon basin alone. Like stop stripping the trees. It's easy for me to say all the way over here, not being someone who might depend on some of that for my livelihood down there. But there's, from what I understand, though, the governments down there, they allow too much and the businesses go too far, and it's done a lot of damage to rainforests and stuff. And it's not good. I mean, that produces so much of our oxygen. Like, if they ever completely stripped it, like who knows? Like, maybe South America would, like, run out of oxygen. You know what I mean? It would definitely lower the Earth's oxygen levels.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not good for humans, I'll tell you that. And a lot of other animals, too.
No.
So, yeah, it has to be controlled because, like, we know enough now to know that a lot of the Earth's oxygen comes from that, as well as carbon absorption. So, yeah, don't go too far with that.
That reminds me of the episodes of The Simpsons where Lisa is an adult and she goes to an exhibit like The Last Tree on Earth or something. But it was meant as a joke, but I'm just like, where's all the oxygen?
Is that the one where it's a play on the movie Boyhood where it trails Bart all through? Or there's one where they're all adults, right? That she's like the president. Is it the one where she's like the president of the United States or something?
Maybe. I'm not really sure. It could have been that one, or it could have been when she was in college. I'm not really sure.
We still haven't done The Simpsons. We gotta do that. We gotta figure out how we're gonna approach it. We've been talking about this for a while. We need to make it happen. Simpsons.
Well, we got close to Futurama.
This is true. It's Simpsons adjacent.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Maybe in December, unless you've got plans.
Yeah. I think the only thing
we do
on my radar for December is there's a new not a Miyazaki film. It's a new Studio Ghibli film that's coming out in theaters.
Okay.
That might be really cool to.
And I forgot.
Other than that, I don't have anything planned at this point.
Do we normally take a break in December?
Well, this past year we took like 1 week off, I think.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we got to figure out if we're gonna do it the same way this time around. But yeah, we'll at least take a week off, if nothing else, before season 5. But yeah, we've got some Yeah, we've got some talking and planning to do, which we're not going to do here because that's not why you guys are here.
No.
But anyway, yes, we still have not. We need to rectify that and get the Simpsons episode done.
So let's backtrack. We were talking about trees, the Amazon, ants. That's where we tangent.
Yeah, and the ridiculous vine swinging scene.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, I guess because they see him swinging, the monkeys are like, let's join in, and they attack the Russians as well.
Yeah, why?
I was like, I think I made a note. It's like, oh, the monkeys are capitalists.
Yes. Oh, I can see it now. Little top hat and monocle.
Yeah, I thought that made it even more ridiculous. I'm like, it's like, oh, let's this giant man child is swinging with us. Let's join his team.
Definitely been watching a lot of Futurama.
Oh my goodness. I wonder if Shia LaBeouf looks back at that and is embarrassed by it. And not only that, there's another scene which I get what they were going for because Indy's always getting a beating. Like the first 3 movies, he's always getting beat up, and that's kind of part of the shtick, right?
Yeah.
But in this one, I was like, it just didn't quite fit. Like, but they got the fencing part where he's like standing on two different cars, and he's like doing the splits, and then he gets hit in the balls with like shrubbery several times while he's trying to sword fight the Russian general.
And he doesn't even react a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, come on, this is dumb. Like that, and not quite as dumb as the vine swinging, but close. I'm like, yeah, this is not really necessary. Like, you've got enough other types of humor here. This is not really necessary.
Yeah.
But those are probably my biggest gripes about the film. That and the fridge scene. So surviving the nuclear blast in a fridge without any broken bones after being hurled like probably at least several hundred feet, if not more. Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, these are probably the more accurate reasons, more correct reasons why this film is not always lauded among the Indiana Jones fan base.
Yeah, I think now for some it's probably in competition with Temple of Doom for like their least favorite. And I think the biggest complaint I've heard about Temple of Doom is that the female co-star is screaming all the time. So that's probably one of the complaints I've heard. But yeah, I think what works for me in this film is like, I do think the relationship between Indy and his son, like, as it develops, I think that works. But I think what I loved the most about this, which obviously is enjoyable about the first 3 films as well, is the archaeological and historical mysteries that Indy gets pulled into, and like digging into ancient past and like decoding things and working out puzzles and going through ancient obstacle courses, so to speak, and diffusing booby traps and getting closer to the truth, and then facing opposition in the midst of that. He's competing with someone else who's also pursuing that prize. Like, that through line is there, and they pulled that off really well, and that's the heart of the film. And to me, that's why I still really enjoy watching it. I can put up with a handful, 2 or 3 dumb scenes.
Right.
There's certainly other movies that have 2 or 3 dumb scenes that I enjoy on most levels, and this is one. Like, I don't hate this. I never did, even the first time I saw it. It had stupid scenes, but overall, I really liked it, and I don't think it deserves a lot of the flack that it gets.
I don't think so either. Like I said, my second viewing was a lot more favorable.
Yeah, and I haven't counted, but this might be my 4th or 5th viewing of it total. Like, I've watched it a few times since seeing it in theaters. But yeah, so it's somewhere around there, probably 4th or 5th viewing for me. But it's been a while since the last time I saw it, so I think, yeah. Well, let's see how we're doing on time here. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. Obviously, well, quite a bit, I guess. Well, Well, I guess we can trace it throughout the movie. But what did you think of the development of the storyline, and then the payoff at the end with the interdimensional beings, like the build up, like the mystery and the build up, and then the eventual payoff at the end? Like, I guess, did that resonate with you the first time you saw it, and then how did this viewing compare to that?
Well, like I said earlier, the first time I watched it, I didn't like it because it was such a so different than what India's experienced before. In the first film, it's a artifact from Judaism. From the second film, I forget. It's some sort of artifact from...
Was it Mayan or Aztec?
I think...
One of those two, probably. Or Inca? One of the big three, probably. Inca, Maya, or Aztec.
I can't remember.
Anyway, continue.
But and then the third one, it was a artifact of Christendom. So I was used to supernatural... the plot revolving around some sort of supernatural religious artifact.
Yeah.
But I've come to accept and enjoy this one. I mean, it's still religious in a sense.
Yeah, it still had definitely had some religious connections.
Because
still.
the Mayans worshipped these interdimensional beings as gods.
Or Uga?
Huh?
They weren't Mayans.
They weren't Mayans?
The Uga. They were called the Uga.
The Uga.
They might have been related to the Maya. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
Okay. So,
love that scene in the Guardians movie.
I've always loved that song.
Oh, wait. Actually, I'm getting that mixed up. The opening scene with Chris Pratt where he's like... Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. I love that scene.
Hey, ho.
Yeah, that really set the tone for the film, and it was fun. And I didn't know Chris Pratt could dance. So. What was it he says at the end? Like, it's like, I think it's Drax says, or no, the villain asks him, "What are you doing?" It's like, it's called a diversion, you big turd blossom. He's doing the day. That was great. That was great. Yeah.
Anyway, my last note is. Oh no, I didn't even answer your question yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the interdimensional being storyline? Like how it developed, the mystery. Do you feel like it built up at a good pace?
Yeah, I liked it. I think that there were some major spoilers early on because, we were clued in about the Roswell, New Mexico
that's true.
body. This crystal skull, when we find it, is obviously extraterrestrial. But the ending payoff is still pretty big. Because you don't see it coming, all these crystal skeletons coming together to form an actual, somehow still alive, living, breathing extraterrestrial or interdimensional being.
Did you feel like that was a bait and switch at all, or of kind of like, hey, we're baiting you this whole time with extraterrestrial mystery, and then surprise, it's interdimensional? Or do you feel like it was similar enough where I was like, okay, they still paid it off well?
Oh no, it was still paid off. I mean, that was unexpected, but it was still paid off. I'm still confused about the alien burning our Russian lady's eyeballs out. Was that the alien's wrath, or was it just the alien giving her what she wanted and her brain couldn't handle all the information?
It did feel like there was a bit of malice, at least in his expression.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that it might have been anger at her hubris, perhaps, of like, I want it all. I want it all. Give it to me. Give me the knowledge. I want it all. Maybe that was him like, okay, you're an arrogant little human. I'm going to give you exactly what you want, and it's going to kill you.
Oh,
Although it's debatable, Like she sort of vaporizes, but then she goes up into the portal. So like,
Right.
is she dead? Which I haven't seen Dial of Destiny yet, but I seriously doubt they bothered.
No, I doubt
to
it.
bring any elements of this story back.
My question is whether or not Mutt Williams comes back in any form or shape in the next film, because
I was wondering that. Does he have a little cameo or probably just a reference?
it feels like he should at least have a reference.
Yeah, like maybe like they did with Indy's father. You know, they don't, because the actor was still alive, but they decided either he declined or they decided not to bring him back for a cameo. But you know, they use his image, which I'm sure they had to pay for, because you're Sean Connery.
Yeah.
You've got to pay. But yeah, they didn't actually bring the actor back. Again, maybe he turned it down, or maybe they just decided not to do that. But yeah, I have a feeling either Shia LaBeouf probably would have turned down, or they'll just do like a reference, like, because yeah, I am curious because you don't see Marion in the trailer, so I don't know if they have like an opening scene where it's like Indy at home with his wife, or obviously those of you who have already seen Dial of Destiny, you know, you got a spoiler on us. Like, we haven't seen it yet. We didn't. We almost went to see it in theaters. We were going to cover it, and then I think I changed my mind or something at that.
You went to see Oppenheimer instead.
That's right. Yeah, Oppenheimer.
And for some reason, I wasn't able to make it.
Yeah, I guess it was too last minute, or anyway, probably just more I got impatient, which does happen.
That's
it's like
fine.
It's opening night. I gotta go see it. You know, which is my problem. But anyway, we haven't seen it yet. So yeah. So for those of you who haven't seen it yet but have seen Crystal Skull, you're right there with us. You know, maybe you heard the bad reviews and you're like, I'm gonna wait till this comes out on Disney Plus. You know, which we kind of ended up doing by default. But yeah, I thought about seeing it a few times. But I got other things I want to do with my money too, so I'm like, do I want to go see it? I kind of do, but kind of don't. I have a big TV now, so I'm still going to enjoy it when I finally see it on Disney Plus. You know, so I'm like, okay, here we are. Anyway, yeah. So getting back to the through line with the interdimensional beings, I liked it as well and enjoyed it once again on this entry, and I think they give you quite a bit up front. Obviously, Area 51,
Yeah.
and then you see the corpse, and it kind of looks like your traditional gray alien, you know, that you see in a lot of movies. You know what though? Now that I think about it, I don't think you actually don't get a full picture.
No.
There, you just see a hand. Now that I think about it, so the skull is the closest you get to the picture of the alien. You know, it's just reminiscent of what you would call the Greys, but not quite the same.
But later on, I think that we do see a gray alien, most likely the one in the government sarcophagus, or
Yeah,
with
that's
the
right.
head cut open.
we do see that, the original one from the first scene. We do see it later. She's, you know, someone had taken the skull out already, apparently, and it had a crystal skeleton. Like, she does make reference to that, but its head is much smaller. So she speculates, like the Russian general, the leader of the Russian group, speculates about whether it might have been like a close relative of the other creatures, the other beings, which she might be right about, like, 'cause it could be a different species from the same dimension. Perhaps maybe they came looking for something as well. So that was interesting, but they didn't do a whole lot with that after that point.
Right.
Which I don't think they necessarily needed to, but it was interesting. But yeah, I thought they paced it pretty well. You know, they gave you enough. They kept enough about it mysterious that, you know, it didn't give. I didn't feel like it didn't give away too much. And obviously, you don't know they're interdimensional until the very end, when Oxley finally comes back to himself and reveals. It's the first, like, the first truly cogent thing he says in the film is like, interdimensional beings in point of fact. And it was like, Ox is back.
Now, speaking of these interdimensional beings, they appear to have psychic powers. I was thinking it could have been at the end of the film that this reformed being was reading the mind of the female Russian. Speaking of which,
that's a good point.
Earlier in the film, the female Russian tried to psychically read Indiana Jones's mind.
Yeah.
And didn't we just throw that away?
Yeah, they didn't do much with that. I was like, is she messing with him? She seems sincere. And then she says, "You're a hard man to read, Dr. Jones."
No, I think it was sincere.
Maybe she thought she had psychic powers.
Yeah.
And Jones kind of just scoffs at her. He's just like kind of smirks.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you trying to do? And so they kind of leave that open to your interpretation. Like, did she actually have powers, or she just thinks she had it? Because she definitely has hubris, that's for sure, and and ambition, absolutely. Like and Cate Blanchett does an awesome job with this. Like at the end, where she sees the throne room for the first time, and then she meets the being, and she gets a taste of the knowledge, and you can see she's just like obsessed. And like she's just wide-eyed obsession. Like, give me more. I must have more. I must have more. She did a better job of Russian than I do, obviously. For some reason, I'm picturing the landlord from the Spider-Man movies, Rent, which that guy actually is Russian. The actor is actually Russian, I think. Yeah. Anyway, he's like, Rent. Where's my money? But he's probably playing a bit of a stereotype of his own people to some extent in that film, at least. I think he was in The Hunt for Red October as a Russian, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
He plays one of the Russian. I think that's where I saw him, outside of Spider-Man. Anyway.
Well, what did you think about the very end of the film when Indiana Jones's hat blows over to Mutt Williams' feet and he almost picks it up and puts it on?
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, I thought this even back then. It's like, obviously, that's Spielberg teasing people a little bit. It's like, we could make more with Shia LaBeouf, but we're going to leave it open, to this being the last one as well. So they left it ambiguous on purpose, as like to hint at the possibility. But then obviously the critical, I think it did reasonably well in the box office, but the critical reactions, and even to a large degree the fan reactions, are very split, I think.
Yeah.
I think they decided to scrap any plans they might have had. And maybe by this point Shia LaBeouf's probably like, I've moved on. Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe they didn't ask him. I don't know. I haven't seen an interview of him talking about that, or whether he would have been interested or not. Hard to say. But yeah, they're definitely leaving it ambiguous on purpose. It's like that could either be the last indie film, or they could do more. Imagine if it made like $1 billion plus. It's like, screw the critical reaction, we're going to make more. Because that's a lot of money. I think it still did pretty well. I forgot to look it up. I meant to do that just out of curiosity, but I think it did pretty solid at the box. Definitely better than the new one did. It's pretty sad, actually, how Dial of Destiny, I don't think it even broke 300 million last I checked. And that's globally. But actually, no, that's right. It was creeping close to 400 million total gross globally, but from what I heard about both the budget was extremely high for this last film, like 300 million or something like that, and then their marketing budget was like reportedly, or at least rumored to be, upwards of $100 million. So it might not have broken even yet, which maybe is part of the reason why they're waiting longer to release it. They're like, let's squeeze as much out of the theater run as we can. And they are selling it right now. You can buy it, I think through like Prime Video or places like that. You can buy it for $20 right now, but you can't rent it yet, and it's not streaming yet.
Right.
So trying to get as much money back as they can, at least break even. I mean,
Interestingly, on Disney Plus, there are 2 buttons under Dial of Destiny: play and play trailer.
huh?
And I've pressed play, and it gives me an error message that says, "Please try on a different username." And if it continues to give you an error, I don't remember the rest.
I did not see that. Yeah, I've not heard of it being officially released, and they haven't been advertising it. Usually, you see on the header, they'll say "Dial of Destiny coming such and such date." Well, I haven't seen anything yet.
It might be a goof that they didn't mean to put the play button on there.
Could be. I'll have to. I have a friend who works for the company that runs the streaming service. I'll have to ask him. Or I don't know if they still maintain it, but they set it up for Disney.
Oh,
like the streaming service. I'm assuming they're involved also in the maintenance of it. Maybe he knows, but he might not be allowed to tell. I would doubt it, even if he did know. But
yeah, that made me wonder though.
Yeah, well, I would think it'd be coming soon because I doubt it's making money in theaters right now. But yeah, they may be trying to sell it as much as they can before they start renting it out and stuff. So, overall reactions, if we were to rate this with nerd hats, let's do it before and after. So, like, back when you first saw it, how many nerd hats would you have given it back then?
When I first saw it,
Yeah.
probably a 3.
Really? That high? Like,
Well,
for you,
out
that's
of 5,
decent.
right?
Yeah, 3 out of 5.
Well, maybe a 2.5 then.
Yeah, I think I might have done similar, like, kind of like middle of the road because of how much I dislike some of the dumb parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I probably would have been 2.5, 3 at most myself back then. I don't know if it'd be much higher now. I think the highest I could possibly go on a film like this is 3.5. But yeah, I think it's still in that kind of 3 to 3.5 range for me. Like, it's enjoyable, but it's not a great film by any means. It's enjoyable though. It's fun and it's good. It's good for a rewatch. Which I guess it depends on how you're judging it. Like, if you're judging it as like, this is like, I mean, yeah, it's really hard when you're trying to compare films. It's like just for example, like how do you compare a film like this to something like Denis Villeneuve's Dune, for instance? Like, just like the pacing and the aesthetic and the tonality. It's just so different. It's like how do you compare? It's almost like apples to oranges. It's like, so. Is this a great action movie? I would say no. It's not great. It's good.
Right.
It's definitely an enjoyable action movie. I enjoy the characters, and obviously the first 3 movies have a lot to do with that. Building up, with Indy, and I was a little more annoyed by Marion than anything else in this. I liked her better in the original movie that she was in. Her character, and a lot of that I think has to do with the writing. Her character was more annoying, I think, than enjoyable to me this time around. But I liked the dynamic they had in the first film better. The Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, on action, honestly, because of the dumb scenes, I'd probably have to give it like a 2.5 at best. Like, it's mediocre with the action. Special effects, honestly, even for 2008, I think it's kind of mediocre as well. I think they could have made better choices with the technology they had. Case in point, Avatar came out the year after that, and it's spectacular. Still holds up in terms of technical quality and quality of production.
And that's a huge difference when we see things in Indy 4 here, like those monkeys and even the gophers. We can tell they're CGI.
Yeah.
But Avatar just came out a year afterward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's CGI because these are creatures that don't exist, but it was so beautifully done. Granted, it took like 10 years to make it, so it's like,
that's true.
There's difference in that realm. But to see what's possible around that same time period, even another one that comes to mind is Iron Man. The first Iron Man film came out the same year as this. It did a better job, and it chose its CGI portions more wisely, I think, than this film did. So yeah, special effects, I would say 2.5, mediocre as well. Now story, I think I'd give it a 3.5 in story.
Cool.
I really enjoyed the story. I mean, if you include the dumb action bits in the story, that definitely is why I would not give it higher. But I really enjoyed the mystery and the archaeology, and some of the dialogue is clunky, but Harrison Ford and Shia LaBeouf are good enough actors that they still make it work. It's like he's able to deliver it in a way that still works, even though you can tell that's lazy writing.
Yeah,
some of it clunky, lazy writing, but somehow Harrison Ford and Shia LaBeouf are able to still make it enjoyable and make it work. But yeah, story I would give it 3.5. Acting, I think similar, 3.5. The two of them give strong performances, as does John Hurt, and Cate Blanchett, obviously solid as well. She's definitely hamming it up, but that's what you want from an indie villain. I think you want he's going to chew the scenery, as it were. And she does a good job of that. Like she also does that when she plays the villainess in Thor. The third Thor movie, and it's just enjoyable because Cate Blanchett rocks. And, but yeah, the Marion, I can't remember the actress's name off the top of my head right now, but the one who played that performance was not as good. Mac, he serves his purpose. I think, I think he did a good job serving, his role. It doesn't have to be a tour de force performance necessarily in that role. And then Jim Broadbent is good in almost anything he's in. He's just a very natural actor, and he just has that quirky personality that he works well as a professor, or I think he was an academic dean, I think, in this. But yeah, I liked his character. But yeah, not excellent across the board, so I think 3.5 with acting. Music, 3.5 as well. This is not John Williams' best, but it's still really good. It's still good and solid. So I think maybe average all of those out, I think I'd give it a 3.
Oh, okay.
Give it a 3. Which for me is a little low. But yeah, I think 3 is fair. It's a little bit above average, but not much.
Okay. I don't have an in-depth review like you, but I was going to give my recent watch more like maybe a 3.5. I wonder whether or not my consumption of junk films has affected my ability to know the difference between a good film and a bad film.
Yeah, but, and some of that, there's a certain degree of subjectivity in a lot of that too. It's like, one man's great film might be another man's trash. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
just depends on what you like to some extent. But there are certain, I think, if you know a little bit about filmmaking, which I'm certainly not an expert, a lot of what I know from watching behind the scenes and inside the actor's studio interviews with directors and whatnot, and also a podcast, Film Spotting, which I've plugged before on here. I started listening to it again recently. It's been going on for, I think, 17 years. It's got like 900 something episodes, and it's done by 2 film critics from the Chicago film critic scene, and it's very well done. But they get into the film school level analyses of films, but they cover the wide range. They'll cover more populist films like a MCU film, Avengers film, or Indiana Jones film, but they also get into really art house, Criterion Collection kind of, more independent films, or films made by the masters, as you might call it. I've heard names I think Kurosawa, you're familiar with, so he's considered, one of the people they revere his work. But then there's another one, Gene Champion, who I'd never heard of before I started listening to their podcast. And I think I might have seen one of her films, but didn't realize that's who directed it. But yeah, and they'll get into more of those types of films as well. But they bring that level of expertise. So that's taught me a lot about what to look for in films. But there are times where I just want to sit back and just enjoy it. I don't really want to critique it, and I guess in a sense we're just doing this as a hobby.
Yeah.
And we're trying to have some fun with it, so we're not necessarily going super deep on that front.
No.
Sometimes I want to, though. There's some films I was like, I really want to dig into this, like the Miyazaki film last week. Like,
oh, yeah. Oh, that was a great film.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to our Miyazaki month in November. So it should be very enjoyable.
Very. And I guess we'll get into that off recording, and we'll start planning on that.
Yeah. Figure out, nail down which 3, I guess, we're gonna cover, and all that good stuff. And then we gotta, I think a few of them also have mangas that go along with them, so we could probably find a way to cover that.
I own one of the mangas.
Yeah, so we can find a way to cover that for Manga Comics Week, and then we'll do three films. I think I already know what 2 of them are going to be, and they're kind of the 2 you might think of, but then I feel like we should surprise people with a third choice and be like,
we'll see.
You didn't see this one coming.
Raccoons with giant transforming balls.
Wait, what kind of balls?
I'm joking about giant transforming elderly balls. I'm talking about Pompoko. We might not do Pompoko since I mentioned it. We wouldn't be a surprise now.
Wait, is it really that kind of balls, or is it?
Yes,
it is. Oh,
and they all sit, and all the children sit on it, the cushions.
Oh no, that's just wrong. What the heck?
We should watch that one just because of this.
I know. Hilarious. Yeah. Miyazaki gets out there sometimes with
Japanese folklore people.
That's right. Maybe they feel that way about our folklore, though. Although, do we even? I guess we sort of have American folklore, but we're such a melting pot that it's kind of all over the place.
I think our folklore is superheroes.
It's becoming, that's like some of our modern folklore in a sense, which of course borrows from older stories. Like,
I guess the older folklore would be like Johnny Appleseed and things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like our
Bunyan.
modern superheroes borrow a lot from the old Greek stories, Greek gods and the Odyssey and the Iliad and things like that. They certainly borrow from that a good bit. Like, I mean, comic book writers in general, like the mainstream comic book writers, I think have borrowed a good bit from, as do many other writers. Like, and to some extent, I mean, every story builds on previous stories, to some extent. Like, there's nothing completely new under the sun. I feel like, at least it's not very often you find something that's like truly new under the sun in that sense. Yeah, well, it's getting late, so I guess we should wrap this up. Well, that concludes our review of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Blah blah blah.
Hope you enjoyed it. I think we both enjoyed revisiting this film. Like I said, it's enjoyable. It's fun. If you don't try to take it too seriously, which I don't feel like you should with any of the indie films. Like, I don't think you're supposed to take it too seriously. Especially this one. But, yeah, it's supposed to be a little tongue-in-cheek, and there's some wink-wink humor, kind of even pokes fun at itself a little bit, and I like that. I like that about all the films. And Harrison Ford, obviously, is the center point of all that. He pulls off that kind of humor very well. Now, I haven't seen as a parting guess. Let's compare shirtless Indiana Jones from the first trilogy to shirtless Indiana Jones in this film. Like,
was he shirtless in this film?
Yeah, like when he's getting scrubbed for the.
Oh, that's right.
Like think he was 65 when he made it. It was like,
Well, he was greater.
Dude was ripped. Like he's still got it, man. He's in good shape. And I know a lot of people talked about that back then, but apparently he gets shirtless in the new one as well, and he's had some ladies. I know I saw a clip of at least one clip where a female reporter is like, "It's like you still got it," and he was just like, I'm sure he's heard this many times. He's just like, I think he was getting ready to say something snarky, but he's just like, I've been blessed with this body. I think he's like 80 now. I think right around 80. Yeah. He'd be about 80 now. So yeah,
wow.
He's still in good shape. I hope I'm not in that good shape at 80. You know, he had that fight scene just a few years ago in Blade Runner 2049, which if you haven't seen that yet,
was he Blade Runner?
He was in the original.
Really?
Back in '82.
I didn't know that.
And then he also plays a significant part in the new film as well, which is one of the best sequels of all time in my opinion. Like, I think it. Obviously, you couldn't have it without the original. You know, it builds on the original and the atmosphere of the original, quite especially the production design. But I would say it is better than the original, which not too many sequels can say that. Toy Story 2.
That's true.
I think it's fair to say that's better than Toy Story 1. But there's not too many other sequels you can say that about where it got better, is better than the first one.
That is true. That's true. If I had any examples, I would say them now, but I don't.
Oh, man. Mighty Ducks 2. No.
Ha 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 ha.
Oh, I have not seen those movies in a long time. Mighty Ducks.
Was that serious or a joke? I certainly haven't seen Mighty Ducks.
I think I did like the second one better than the first, but you can't have the second one without the first.
True.
And but no, I remember liking those movies as a kid. You know, they were enjoyable. When I was around the age of the kids in it, maybe a little younger, so I could resonate with some of what they were going through. Anyway, well, nerds.
Nerds.
Let's see. Oh yeah, well next week kicks off horror month. So yeah, we will most likely do one of the Ash versus the Evil Dead, or not Ash, one of the Evil Dead series next week. But we'll definitely cover one during horror month for sure.
Right.
But yeah, so you might get a review of that next week. But it'll be horror related, whatever it is. And so yeah, and then the second week of October, we're gonna have Dan Johnson and Chris Mackey are coming back. They're going to talk about the state of comics, and we're also going to talk about what some of their favorite horror comics are. So with it being horror month, you know, we have to hit on some horror themes. So that should be pretty cool.
And Dan does love his horror comics.
Yeah, and then week 3 we're going to do a horror anime, which we have a fan of ours that has recommended one in particular that we may cover. We got to get back with this individual and see. They might even join us on the podcast. This is a potential. We got to confirm that with them, but they've at least have made a suggestion for that week for a horror anime film. But I'm not going to announce it just yet. But yeah, we got possibility in the works. And so we got 3 of our topics already nailed down for this month, and we have one more that is yet to be nailed down that we need to figure out what we're going to cover. But it's going to be horror related, so this is the month of horror. So be on the lookout for all those episodes coming up. Until then,
sayonara.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. If you would, consider following us on Instagram. We are there at irreverent_nerds. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Just look us up there at the Irreverent Nerds. That's our fan page. We have a YouTube channel as well. Once again, The Irreverent Nerds. Nice and simple, right? And if you go to www.irreverentnerds.com, that will send you to our Podcasters for Spotify, formerly Anchor.fm, profile, where you can send us a voice message if you want to, you can support us financially, or listen to the podcast. It will also direct you to other places you can listen, like Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, you name it. So, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all those good things, wherever you find us, wherever you listen to us. We would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, nerds, live long and prosper. Avengers Assemble! I'm Batman.